No matter what, we're going to.
This is
No
it.
matter what, we're going to finish.
Take whatever it is.
Hey, double digit, I believe.
It's good to see you, Jeff.
Good to see you too, Catherine. I love that.
Hey, I like your A's hat. A's and Giants. This is the way it should all work out.
Absolutely.
So, well, it's good to see you, and we are going to visit with the congregation just briefly here to talk about why pledging and why pledging now at this time of year. And to do that, you very kindly made some slides.
I did just four charts.
Only
That's
four.
all.
Okay, good. So it's going to be easy. But before we jump to those, how can we say in a nutshell why pledging is important?
The best way to describe it is still our most accurate way of forecasting next year's revenue. And with that is how we put together a good business plan for the coming year.
That's how we plan, is based on the pledges that come in. So,
Exactly.
well, let's dive into our slides. And again, there's only four. So the first one kind of shows what pledging looked like last year.
And it was really challenging for us. Our number of pledges, you can see on the slide here, we dropped by 25%. That's an enormous drop. And the dollars pledged dropped by 16, which was very significant for the church. So it made our planning for this year really challenging, very difficult. And that's one of the reasons why we want to have a much better stewardship campaign this year.
Yeah, which is really important. And it's important to see also the next one, which is nice and colorful. So
Yes, the
thank you
next
for
bar
preparing.
chart is a little history here of giving in the church.
Pledging just in the last few years, since 2018 to 2021, and head on over to the right-hand side of this slide. You'll see total pledges for the last 4 years. Typically, we're around about 200, a little bit more in some years, a little bit less than some years, but 200 families and individuals pledged during the stewardship campaign, so we could plan. And then you can see in 2021 the big drop-off there,
Exactly.
just 143 families and individuals pledging. And the rest of the slide kind of breaks pledges out over the last 4 years by amounts. And you can see that more than the majority of the congregation gives between $1,000 and $6,000, and that's remained pretty steady for 3 years. And then last year was the drop off in that. And of course, it's really helpful if this year, let's just set some goals. If we can get back up to 200 or more families and individuals pledging,
Exactly.
and even get to that area where most families of the congregation are giving, get more families doing that. If you can give more, very, very helpful to do. But if we could just get back to where we historically have been, that would be really helpful. Have we been in a crisis, though?
No, and I want to remind the congregation that we are financially in a good place currently. The next slide is going to show a little bit about some of the things that we've done to do that, but the big reason is our member donations have been coming in a little stronger than we had expected.
That's
So
helpful.
we didn't have a great pledge drive, but we're still getting good donations. That's helpful.
Okay.
And some of the things that you'll see here that the church has done to address our revenue shortfall have really helped as well.
Yeah, and
So-
go for that. You tell me more about it.
So the first two bullets are really just about using efficiencies in operating processes to help the church run more effectively.
Good.
And so we have remote workers now that are full-time doing jobs that we never had done before. We have a lot more electronic interface between vendors and the banks,
Got it.
so that we have a lot less paper flying around. And I want to remind the congregation, we've been making investments, and the biggest one we made was our social media presence online platform. It's an expense, and we're committed to it because it is the way that we initially reached all of our members when we couldn't open church. And we're looking at it as a means of continuing to expand our reach to all members who cannot worship in a traditional Sunday morning
Church
worship
setting.
service.
Yeah, and then of course you also had reduction in operating expenses, and it looks like about the same reduction that we had for our pledge reductions.
I think the thing I'm most proud of is that the church has really stepped up and reduced operating expenses by a significant amount this year to address what we saw as a revenue shortfall.
Great.
And that has really helped us in the financial position where we are today.
So that is helpful to see. And again, pledging is making a commitment to the church for what you will give in the coming year so that the church can plan. You can
Exactly.
certainly give beyond that throughout the year.
Exactly.
And this next slide is all the ways to make that
contribution
to the church.
Exactly.
And
this is on your pledge card, so
yes.
there's nothing new here. But there's just a few things that Catherine's going to highlight that we'd like to remind members that they may not have thought about.
New things, like you can use a Give Plus Church app on your mobile device.
It's a mobile app that can now be downloaded to make donations.
You can use a charitable trust account where you set up a charitable trust that makes the contribution to the church. That works for a lot of people.
Yep.
And check with the financial advisor about if that is a good way to go for you. You don't have to set it up in the next week during the pledge drive, just at the appropriate amount of time. And then there's donating stocks. That's not because the church plays in the stock market.
No, we don't gamble.
You
We don't gamble here.
You sell the stock and use the
sell
proceeds for the church.
Yes, we do.
And of course, you can also prepay any donations you would make to the church in 2022 and 2021 so that you get the tax advantage.
You bet.
Point being that there's lots of ways to give, but first, please pledge. And that's where we finish our slides. That's pretty good, right?
I think it's really good. We really, we'd like to say thank you for participating in this year's stewardship campaign. Please make your pledge before the end of the month. It would help us greatly. And we want to remind everybody, we have one more video on
October 31st,
which
Halloween.
is also Halloween. You're not going to want to miss that. We have a big close.
You're not done hearing from us or the dog that's barking next door.
That's
Please
right. And I think I see our Pastor Kim here down
Pastor
my
Kim, too,
street.
is walking by.
So I think we're just not going to try to make any more videos. We're done.
Well, I'll tell you what. We will look forward to seeing you next week. Don't miss it.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Oh, there we go. All right. We did it.